Toronto is about to make the most painful decision of the season. And the name that could define everything isn't even a player who's shining right now. It's a veteran who just came back from leave and is already being talked about as trade bait. If you follow the Blue Jays, this is the news that could shape the entire month of August. With just weeks left before the trade deadline, the situation in Toronto has turned into a genuine warning sign. The team that started the year as a title contender is now fighting just to keep from sinking further down the standings, and every recent result only adds to that sense of urgency.
Before we get into the details, if this kind of Blue Jays breakdown is useful to you, consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps the work here, and make sure you don't miss the next updates. Now let's get to it. George Springer is back. After time away due to paternity leave, followed by a family medical leave, the veteran returned to the team this week. But the return came with a big change. The manager pulled Springer out of the leadoff spot and moved him into the fourth spot in the batting order, hitting between Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Dalton Varsho. This is the kind of adjustment that only happens when a coaching staff is trying to respond to a rough season, and the numbers explain that urgency pretty clearly. Springer's numbers are well below what's expected from a player of his caliber. Few home runs and offensive production that's visibly declined compared to earlier seasons of his career. At 36 years old, the question lingering behind the scenes is unavoidable. Is this a passing slump or the start of a veteran's natural decline? The problem is that time to answer that question is running short. Toronto remains a few games back in the wildcard race, and a recent stretch of losses, including some lopsided scores, has put the front office in an uncomfortable spot. Keep betting on experience or start thinking about what comes next? And that's exactly where the second big chapter of this story comes in, the trade deadline. With the deadline approaching in early August, the Blue Jays front office is being forced to face a question no fan wants to hear. Buy reinforcements to chase the postseason, or sell key pieces to rebuild with an eye on the future?
The name generating the most buzz behind the scenes belongs to one of the most consistent starting pitchers on the roster, now viewed as one of the most valuable assets available on the entire market if he's actually put up for sale. Other veteran arms in the rotation are also part of the conversation, some trying to prove they're healthy enough to justify a new contract, others already in the twilight of their careers but still appealing to teams looking for playoff rotation depth. But the name drawing the most attention from rival teams is a left-handed hitting outfielder, still young, with a rare combination of defense, speed, and power. Contract extension talks with him haven't progressed, and until they do, he's essentially the player every championship contender wants to know the asking price for.
And there's a detail few people are talking about. Springer himself, despite his rough numbers this year, still carries a meaningful postseason track record. That's exactly the kind of resume that draws interest from teams that have already clinched a playoff spot and are looking for experience down the stretch. At the end of the day, Toronto is facing a decision that won't just define the rest of this season, but the shape of the team for years to come. Hold on to the current roster hoping for a late turnaround, or trade away valuable pieces now while they're still worth something, rather than risk losing those players for nothing at season's end. There's no middle ground here, and the clock is ticking. So what would you do in the front office's shoes? Hold on to the core pieces, betting on a turnaround, or start dealing now with the next cycle in mind? Drop your take in the comments. This conversation is just getting started. If you want to keep following every chapter of this story until the trade deadline closes, stay tuned for the next videos. There's a lot more still to come.